All right, everyone, get ready for a deep dive. We're going to tackle norovirus today.
The notorious stomach bug.
Exactly, and we're
Mhm.
going to sift through a whole bunch of research and interesting facts so we can really get to know this virus.
And I think you might be surprised to learn that even though people call it stomach flu,
Right.
norovirus has absolutely nothing to do with influenza.
It's not the flu.
Not even close, yeah.
Okay, so right off the bat,
Myth busted.
we're busting myths. I love it. I've definitely made that mistake before, calling it the stomach flu.
Yeah, most people have.
But let's back up a little bit.
Sure.
What is this virus doing inside our bodies?
Well, it causes, inflammation in your stomach and intestines,
Oh, okay.
which is called gastroenteritis.
Gastroenteritis.
Gastroenteritis, yep.
And that leads to...
That leads to all the symptoms we kind of associate with norovirus, like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach cramps, the whole 9 yards.
And it's so contagious, right?
Oh, incredibly so.
Like, I've heard it takes just a minuscule amount
Yeah.
to get you sick.
It's amazing how potent it is. Just a few viral particles
Yeah.
can make you really sick.
And to make it worse,
There are over 48 different types of this virus just floating around out there.
48.
Yep.
So millions of cases worldwide every year.
Globally. Yeah.
Seems like everyone I know has a norovirus story, you know?
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
So how does it spread? Why is it so effective at getting around?
Well, you can get it through direct contact with someone who's sick, touching surfaces that are contaminated,
Oh, okay.
even eating or drinking contaminated food or water.
Right, yeah.
It's very versatile.
So it makes you realize just how easy it is to get this virus. It's kind of unsettling.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
So is there any way to know if someone is more likely to get sick from norovirus? Are there certain people who are more susceptible?
That's a really good question. And actually, something researchers are still trying to figure out. We know that close contact with someone who's infected, like really close contact,
Right.
will significantly increase your risk.
Oh.
And there is some evidence that suggests some people might have a genetic predisposition
Oh, interesting.
that makes them a little bit more vulnerable.
So genes could actually play a role.
Potentially, yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, there's ongoing research, looking at things like blood type and specific genes that might be involved.
Wow.
But one thing's for sure, norovirus impacts a lot of people.
Right.
Millions and millions of cases every year.
You keep saying millions. Can we, break that down a little bit?
Yeah, globally, we're looking at over 685 million cases annually.
685 million.
Yes, and over 200 million of those are in children.
Oh, wow.
So you can see kids are definitely more susceptible.
That's a lot. Those are huge numbers. Okay, so it's clearly really widespread.
Yeah.
But what makes it so dangerous?
Well, the symptoms themselves can be incredibly debilitating.
Yes.
But honestly, the biggest concern with norovirus is dehydration.
Dehydration.
Yeah, all that vomiting and diarrhea
Yeah.
can really quickly deplete your body's fluids, especially in vulnerable groups, like young children or the elderly.
So dehydration, that's serious.
It can be very serious.
Are there any red flags that people should look out for? Like, how do you know if you or someone you're caring for is getting dehydrated?
Okay, so for adults, you want to watch out for things like decreased urination.
Less frequent. Yeah.
Exactly. Or if your urine is really dark,
Okay.
dry mouth, dry eyes, feeling weak or dizzy.
Got it.
And for children, it might be things like crying without tears, excessive sleepiness, or just being really irritable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are all signs that something's not quite right.
So going back to the spreading thing,
Sure.
you mentioned contaminated food.
Yeah.
How does that even happen?
Well, hygiene is definitely a factor.
Of course.
But think about filter feeders, like oysters.
Oysters.
Right, they filter water for food.
Right.
So if the water's contaminated with norovirus, they accumulate it in their tissues.
Oh, so they're just soaking it up. And
Exactly.
if you eat them raw or
Yeah.
undercooked,
That's a fast track for norovirus to enter your system.
so it's not just how the food is handled, it's the food itself.
Absolutely.
So avoiding raw oysters, probably a good idea,
Especially during outbreaks, yes.
especially during outbreaks.
Smart move.
It makes you think twice about eating out, honestly, any time of year.
Well, and you're right to be cautious.
Yeah.
Because foodborne transmission, it's actually the leading cause of norovirus outbreaks here in the U.S.
Really?
And it's not just oysters. Any food handled by someone who's infected can be a source of contamination.
Oh, that's a little scary.
It is.
Yeah, it really highlights how important food safety is,
Absolutely. You can never be too careful.
Yeah.
Awareness and vigilance are your best defenses when it comes to norovirus.
Good advice.
Thanks.
All right, so we've got a good handle on the basics,
The basics, yeah.
what this virus is, how it spreads,
hmm
but there's always more to learn.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Norovirus is full of surprises.
All right, well, let's dive into some of the less discussed aspects of norovirus when we come back.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive on norovirus.
You know, when people think about norovirus, they think about being sick for a couple days.
Right, the acute phase.
Exactly. But are there any long-term effects that we should be thinking about?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a growing body of research looking into that.
Okay.
Well, most people do recover fully without any lasting problems.
Yeah.
There are some studies that suggest a potential link between norovirus and irritable bowel syndrome.
IBS.
Yeah.
Really? That's kind of surprising. I wouldn't have thought of that connection.
Yeah, it's not something people immediately think about,
No.
but it all comes down to the gut microbiome.
Right. All those microorganisms living in our intestines.
Exactly. And it plays a super important role in digestion, nutrient absorption, even our immune system.
Yeah. The gut microbiome is so important. We're learning more about it all the time.
Absolutely. And the theory is that a norovirus infection, especially early in life,
Oh, okay.
could disrupt that delicate balance in the gut.
It throws things off.
Yeah, it can kind of shake things up in there.
And that could lead to IBS later on.
Potentially, yeah.
Wow.
More research is definitely needed
Right.
to really confirm that link.
Yeah.
But it does highlight how important it is to prevent norovirus infection, especially in young children.
So protecting those little tummies.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the experience of actually having norovirus.
Okay.
We've all heard the horror stories, but I'm curious, beyond just the physical symptoms, what's it actually like to live with this virus?
Well, it's incredibly disruptive to your life, for one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, norovirus can knock you off your feet for a few days.
You're down for the count?
Absolutely. You can't go to work, can't go to school. It's hard to take care of, even basic responsibilities.
And then there's the whole contagiousness factor.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't just power through it. You have to isolate
You're
yourself.
basically quarantined.
Yeah, exactly. So on top of feeling awful, you're also stuck at home alone.
It's very isolating, yeah.
And that can't be easy on your mental and emotional well-being, right?
Absolutely not.
I mean, dealing with constant nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, that's got to be tough.
It's very emotionally draining
Yeah.
and even frightening for some people, honestly.
It's a lot to cope with.
It is.
Are there any tips you can offer for managing all of that, the emotional and mental stress that comes with norovirus?
Well, I think the most important thing is to be kind to yourself.
Okay.
Allow your body to rest.
Yeah,
Give yourself permission to just relax and recover.
makes sense.
Do things that bring you comfort, like watching movies, reading, listening to music, whatever helps you unwind.
Right.
And don't be afraid to reach out to friends and family for support.
Oh, that's so important.
Even if they can't physically be there with you, a phone call or a video chat can make a world of difference.
Yeah, that human connection.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great advice.
Thanks.
Now, let's get practical for a minute.
Sure.
We know norovirus is incredibly contagious, so what are some key cleaning and hygiene tips for people dealing with this virus in their homes?
Well, remember, this virus can survive on surfaces for days, even weeks.
Oh, wow.
So thorough cleaning and disinfection is absolutely crucial.
Okay, so we're not just talking about a quick wipe down here.
Well, you need to really get in there.
Right.
Any surface that might have come into contact with vomit or diarrhea
Okay.
needs to be cleaned with a bleach-based cleaner or a disinfectant that's specifically designed to kill norovirus.
So the heavy duty stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, what about laundry?
Another important one.
Yeah, because I imagine contaminated laundry needs some special attention.
It does. You want to wash anything that's been contaminated separately from other clothes.
Okay.
Use hot water
Hot water
and the highest heat setting on your dryer.
to really kill those germs.
Exactly. Heat is your friend when it comes to norovirus.
And for those items that can't be washed, like stuffed animals or certain toys?
Yeah, ideally avoid contact with them altogether until the person's not contagious anymore. If that's not possible, you can try cleaning them with a disinfectant wipe or spray.
So containment is key.
Absolutely.
What about preventing the spread within a household? Are there specific things families can do to minimize the risk?
Isolation is really important.
Okay.
So the infected person should stay in a separate room as much as possible.
Right.
And everyone in the house needs to be really diligent about hand washing.
So even more hand washing than usual.
Yes, absolutely. Wash your hands frequently and thoroughly,
Got it.
and no sharing of towels, utensils, or any personal items.
So it's like a hygiene lockdown?
Pretty much, yeah. Minimizing contact is essential.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What about food preparation and handling? Any special precautions there?
Absolutely. The person who's sick should not be involved in food prep at all.
Okay, that makes sense.
And everyone else should be extra careful about washing their hands before and after handling food, especially raw fruits and vegetables.
So double down on those food safety practices.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so far we've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
but we're going to keep this deep dive going when we return.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so we've explored what it's like to live with norovirus and the importance of hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm curious, what does the future hold for battling this virus? Are there any, promising new treatments or breakthroughs? Anything on the horizon?
Well, scientists are definitely making progress, which is exciting.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. One area that's really promising is the development of antiviral drugs.
Ooh, antivirals.
Yeah. Specifically targeted at norovirus.
Okay, so up until now, we've just been managing symptoms, right?
Right. Supportive care, basically.
But this sounds like we could actually attack the virus itself.
Exactly.
Can you tell me more about how those would work?
So basically, these antivirals would target the virus's ability to replicate and spread inside the body.
All right.
So it could potentially shorten the duration of the illness
Oh, nice.
and maybe lessen the severity of the symptoms too.
That would be amazing, especially for people who are more vulnerable to those complications.
Absolutely. It could make a huge difference.
What else? Are there any other exciting approaches in the works?
Yeah, and another area that's really interesting is monoclonal antibodies.
Monoclonal antibodies.
Yep, you might have heard of them.
I feel like I have, yeah.
They've been used for other viral infections.
Right.
They're lab-made antibodies
Okay.
designed to target specific proteins on the virus.
So they basically neutralize it.
Exactly.
And how would they be used for norovirus?
Well, they could be given as a treatment to people who are already infected,
Okay.
or even as a preventative measure for people who are at high risk of exposure.
Like healthcare workers, for example.
Exactly, or people living in close quarters, like dorms or nursing homes.
That's incredible. So much potential there.
It's really exciting research.
Speaking of exciting research, what about vaccines? Any news on that front?
You're right, a vaccine would be a game changer.
The Holy Grail.
Absolutely. And the good news is that research is underway.
Okay, good.
We don't have a commercially available vaccine yet,
Right.
but there are several promising candidates that are currently in clinical trials.
Oh, wow. So that's actually really good news.
It is, yeah.
I know so many people would be thrilled if we could finally prevent norovirus through a vaccine,
Oh, absolutely.
not just for individuals, but to stop outbreaks and lessen the burden on the healthcare system.
It would be a huge win for sure.
So fingers crossed for those clinical trials.
Yes, definitely.
But beyond drugs and vaccines, what about just improving sanitation?
Oh, yeah, that's another crucial area.
What kind of things are researchers working on there?
Well, think about all the surfaces we touch every day.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Right, so they're exploring things like advanced filtration systems that can remove norovirus from water, or even self-disinfecting surfaces that can kill the virus on contact.
So we're fighting the virus, but also changing our environment to make it harder for it to spread?
Exactly, a multi-pronged approach.
I like it.
And each step forward, brings us closer to a future where norovirus is no longer this dreaded stomach bug that we know today.
That's the goal.
Absolutely.
Okay, so much great information. Before we wrap up, let's summarize some key takeaways for our listeners.
Sounds good.
What are the most important things to remember about norovirus?
Okay, so first of all, norovirus is highly contagious.
Yes.
It causes those classic gastrointestinal symptoms, the nausea, vomiting, diarrhea we all dread.
Yep.
And it's a major cause of foodborne illness, especially here in the U.S.
Right, and we know it spreads through contaminated food, water, surfaces, person-to-person contact.
Exactly.
But the good news is most people recover within a few days.
That's right.
And while we don't have a cure yet, the focus is on managing those symptoms, staying hydrated, getting plenty of rest, and of course, practicing good hygiene.
Yes, hand washing is your best friend.
So important.
Absolutely. And if you think you might have norovirus, stay home. Don't spread it to others.
Definitely stay home, rest up.
Exactly.
All right, everyone, wash your hands, stay home if you're feeling sick.
Good advice.
But there's a lot to be hopeful about.
There is.
We talked about all the amazing research happening, new ways to fight this virus, antivirals, vaccines, better sanitation.
It's an exciting time for norovirus research.
This has been such an informative deep dive into the world of norovirus. I've learned so much.
Me too. It's been fun.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and helping us understand this complicated little virus.
It's been my pleasure.
Until next time, everyone, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay healthy.
Stay well.